My name is Ann S. Fernandez. And after I got married, my name became Ann S. Vargas. And I was born July the 10th, 1920. I was born in Pueblo, Colorado. My mother's name was Serafina Fernandez. And my father's name was Santos Fernandez. My mother was born in Pueblo. My father was from Mexico. And he worked there in Pueblo, in the steel mills. Gradually, we had to move up north there in Colorado. My father used to help the farmer work there in the farm, which at that time, everybody was working in the sugar beets, and which I even learned, we had to help work. So during the Depression, we were out in the farm, and I remember working in the sugar beets. Payday was only in July and November. So I remember my father, being that we didn't have no kind of transportation, I remember him walking into the town. At that time, I think there were some stamps at that time that you had to buy groceries or whatever. And I remember, of course, my father had to walk all this distance bringing whatever he was able to carry. And our farmhouse was, it was like, it looked okay outside, but it sort of resembled a shack, really. Cement floors, and then all our heating was just a stove, and just with the stove we warm up, which I remember when my younger sister was born in 1933, she was so tiny. My mother used to open the door of the oven and place her there and keep an eye on her to be sure. So she, and we grew up being that really, my father only had 2 paydays in July and November. Well, they made sure that we had sacks of flour and sacks of beans, and in reality, Depression must have been depressed for someone, but it just seemed like at home, my mother was such a homemaker, and my father, that they didn't give us time to take time to worry about anything. Well, we were 10, and 2 of my older brothers, my sister, my mother, were born in Pueblo. I was born in Pueblo. And then after that, we had 2 brothers, and they passed away. So then that's when my brother George was born, and then my brother Ben. They came before my younger sister. We all lived there in the farm. And so I was raised there in the northern part of Colorado. And at that time, we were going to school, and half of the family helped, and the other half, they were already adults. So in time, as we were working there in the farm, then went to school, of course, and I graduated from high school in Eden, Colorado. After I graduated, and also my sister, we worked in downtown, and I was a sales lady. And eventually I was not afraid to work, so whatever came, I tried my best to do what I could do. Then as we graduated, we moved into town, into Greeley, and then my brother Ben and my brother George were old enough, and they enlisted in the Navy, which at that time, then my brother Simon, he was a paratrooper. Well, in 1943, I was in Denver staying with my older sister. This Monday morning, I was going with my friend. We had met, and we're going to work in the laundry, when all of a sudden, there's a sign, "Join the service and see the world." Well, my friend's name was Dorothy. I says, "Dorothy, let's join the service." She was a little hesitating whether about going, because she thought her parents wouldn't let her go. Well, her parents didn't let her go. I just took it on myself, and I told my mother I'm going to join the service. Of course, she was begging me not to go, but you know, you're young and you just don't give it a thought about. So I joined the service. I remember getting on the bus, and of course, the parents, the mothers especially, were crying and this and that. Well, we're young and we're going to see the world. They ask you where you would like to go, and naturally, send me to California or send me to Florida. So they sent me to Des Moines, Iowa, which it was cold. Then that's where I met these two friends of mine that were from Albuquerque. Well, I'm there in Des Moines, Iowa, and it so happened that my outfits fitted me to a T. Well, when I joined the service in Des Moines, Iowa, of course, our training was we had to do a little marching, drilling, well, I think a little bit of everything. So that was in Des Moines, Iowa. So then I was transferred to Bend, Oregon, which there I was working with the rest of my other comrades as when the GIs were coming in, and we had to get their names and everything, which helped a lot to get acquainted, especially if someone was coming in from Denver. Being that I had done a little clerical work in Des Moines, in Oregon, I did a little clerical work. And then I worked outside. They were enlisting new veterans. And of course, we had a little recreation. I was there in Bend, Oregon. Of course, we had a baseball team and anything that had to do with sports. When we would be out training, it was all in fun, although it's still very strict. When I met my boyfriend, Guadalupe Vargas, that too, I met him in Colorado when we worked out in the farms. And his parents used to live in Kersey, Colorado, and we lived in Eden. Lord and behold, he went to the same grade school I went. So when we did meet, it so happened there was a dance in Platteville, and he happened to be there, which my husband was very good looking. And of course, we all wanted to have a date with him or dance with him. Well, we met. That was the beginning of our romance. And of course, our parents were kind of strict, or they tried to be. But you know, you find a way sort of to meet. Well, my husband was stationed there in Washington, and then I was stationed in Oregon, and then he was my boyfriend, but we never gave it a thought of writing to each other or anything. So when he got discharged, came back to Albuquerque, then I also was discharged, and well, a person's in love, and you just don't give a thought to anything else but just the good things. At that time, I thought, well, I gotta see him somewhere or another. I felt that, well, I'm going to Albuquerque on my way. And so then On the way to Albuquerque, I stopped in Pueblo to see a very dear relative which was related to my mother. And she looked just like a Italian woman, very pretty. And I remember she used to have long hair with a big bun. She too was wondering what I was doing there. I told her my story and everything. To this day, I can recall that she says, "Ann, whatever you do in life, follow your heart," which I did follow my heart, and I ended up having my heart. And then I got into Albuquerque, and of course my mother-in-law was wondering where was her boy, and I couldn't convince her that he wasn't with me. But anyway, next day, he arrived by bus in Albuquerque. And so we didn't even give it a thought or whatever. You're young and you just think about the best things in life. Which then my mother-in-law took it on herself. She knew how we felt about each other, and we got married. We stayed there in Albuquerque for quite some time. My brother-in-law asked my husband then for him to come to California, so which we did. And at that time, well, jobs were hard to find and places to live, but we came to California. My brother-in-law found us an apartment, so we got a room and everything. And then my brother-in-law found him a job, and so we stayed here in California. Then our family, then we had our family, and we've had a daughter and two sons. They were all born there in LA. When I joined the American Legion, it so happened we lived here in downtown, here off of North Broadway, here in El Sereno. I was shopping one day, and there was this dress shop right here on North Broadway, and which I did not know. There was Florence Marzak. She was the commander of Post 272, although she had her dress shop there in El Sereno. Well, that's where I met the post, and through Flo Marzak, I joined the American Legion in 1988, just about 25 years, I think. I'm a veteran, and that's how I joined the post in Montebello 272, which was very active. When I first joined, right away, I volunteered to be third vice, and that takes care of all after the meetings, of feeding the people. So I was their third vice, I think for 3 years. Oh, I helped with membership. I was there for membership 1 year. I served in quite a few positions there at the post. And then I became second vice, and that's for helping all the fund drives and entertainment and getting the bands, which up to now, we have one dance every first Sunday of the month, and it was up to me to get the bands, what have you. Well, we had nominations last year, and I declined. I thought that was enough, but although I still help now the second vice in getting all the bands and what have you. So which I have dances and I don't pay. And so I'm still active there at the American Legion.